What's up, everyone? Jay here from Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with a EDH deck tech. Today's deck is for a viewer request. I know we haven't done one of these videos in a while, and I do want to apologize for that a little bit. Derek and I kind of have conflicting work schedules at the moment, and he's also expecting a baby very time soon, so that kind of cuts into the YouTube time a little bit, but rightfully so. But today we're doing a Kiki Jiki EDH deck for less than $50. The viewer that requested this from us is King Brackish. So King Brackish, this is the Kiki Jiki budget deck you were looking for, and kind of throw it out there. I know Kiki Jiki isn't very budget friendly himself. He's about a $20 card, but generally, as a lot of you probably well know by now, with our battling with the budget videos, we don't attribute the cost of the general into the overall cost of the deck, because if you want to play that as your general, you need a copy of it. There's no two ways around it. But this particular version of Kiki Jiki from the latest Modern Masters is a little bit cheaper than his Champions of Kamigawa counterpart, so this one will run you about 19 and change. The Champions one, I want to say, is like $23, $24, I believe. But yeah, so that's our general, Kiki Jiki. A lot of you probably know what he does and hate what he does. If you're playing against him, or probably love him if you're playing him. But he's a 5-cost 2/2 Gobo with haste, and you can tap him to put a copy of target non-legendary creature you control onto the board. That token has haste, then it gets sacrificed at the next end step. So everybody knows Kiki Jiki. Some people hate him, some people love him. The direction that I went with this deck to keep it budget was Goblin Tribal. So, to stay under that $50 mark that we want to be at with these videos. So, to throw it out there as well, the overall price of this deck as it stands right now, according to TCG Player Mid, is $48.63. And again, that does not attribute the cost of Kiki Jiki. But yeah, let's just jump right on into the deck. So we're going to take a look at our sorceries first, I guess. Actually, no, we'll take a look at our lands because that'll take 2 seconds. We run a Goblin Burrows and 37 Mountains. Very, very basic land base. With it being mono red and a budget deck, you don't really need much other than basics, and the Goblin Burrows is just there from a flavor standpoint because this is a tribal Goblin deck. If you have a couple extra bucks, I would suggest throwing in a Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. Originally, when I was building the deck list for this, that was in the list until I realized it's an $8 card and made a cut and cut that out of the deck. So, because we want to stay under that $50. So that's our land base, 1 Goblin Burrows and 37 Mountains. Next up are the artifacts that we run. We run a Carnage Altar because mono red doesn't have a lot of ways to draw cards. So this lets us sack a guy to draw a card. Elixir of Immortality lets us pay 2 and tap it, gain 5 life, and then shuffle this and our graveyard into our library. Mono red also doesn't have a lot of ways to recur stuff. Unless it's like instants and sorceries. I know there's a few ways that you can do that in mono red. But mainly I was looking for some creature recursion. So this is really all we could run. This and Felden's Cane. This will let you tap it and exile it to shuffle your graveyard into your library. So just a couple of ways for us to recur our creatures and stuff. Hammer of Perforos gives our team haste, and then if we want, we can pay 2 and a red and tap it and sack a land to get a 3/3 colorless golem. Most of the time we're probably not going to be using that unless our opponent is targeting one of our lands to destroy it. That way we can respond and at least get a 3/3 guy out of it. Illusionist Bracers is a must for Kiki Jiki. It's an equipment, costs 2 and 3 to equip. Whenever an ability of the equipped creature is activated, if it's not a mana ability, copy it. So if we tap Kiki Jiki to copy one of our dudes and he has this on him, we get 2 copies of that dude. Mage Right Stone just lets us untap target creature that has an activated ability with the tap symbol in its cost, so that lets us untap Kiki Jiki and get another use out of him. Obelisk of Erd gives creatures of the chosen type +2/+2. Obviously, with this being Goblin Tribal, we're going to call Goblins on this. Phyrexian Vault is another way for us to draw some cards. Staff of Nin is another way for us to draw cards. The artifacts kind of really help us out a lot in this deck. This Staff of Nin, Phyrexian Vault, and Carnage Altar, let us draw those cards, because, like I said, mono red doesn't have a whole lot of love when it comes to card draw. Thornbite Staff lets us, it's an equipment that costs 2 and 4 to equip. Equipped creature has pay 2 and tap it, and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Then it also has, whenever another creature dies, untap this creature. So basically, every time we have a creature die on our side of the board or our opponent's side of the board, if we have this on Kiki Jiki, we can untap him. So we can definitely abuse Kiki Jiki with this. And Unstable Obelisk, a 3-cost artifact that taps for 1, or you can pay 7, tap it, and sack it to destroy target permanent. That's basically what it's there for, to get rid of those problem permanents that we really can't deal with in mono red. Next are the enchantments of the deck. We run Bogart Shenanigans. Whenever one of our goblins dies, we can have this deal 1 damage to target player. Circle of Flame is a 2-cost red enchantment. Whenever a creature without flying attacks you or a planeswalker you control, this deals 1 damage to that creature. So, kind of a little bit of protection for us, I guess. Curse of Stalked Prey is a 2-cost red enchantment or a curse, so it goes on a player. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to enchanted player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So if we start swarming the board with goblin tokens or whatever it may be, and we swing in and a lot of our little dudes hit our opponent, those dudes are going to get bigger. Dictate of the Twin Gods, 5-cost red enchantment with flash. Whenever a source would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage. So we can sneak this in if we go to swing in with our team, and maybe our opponent says, oh, well, it's not going to be lethal, so I'll just take it. You flash this in and potentially make it lethal. Goblin Bombardment, good from a flavor standpoint, and it just fits well into the deck. It's a free sack outlet that deals damage. Goblin War Drums makes it so that each one of our creatures we control can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. And Goblin Warrens lets us pay 2 and a red, sacrifice 2 goblins to put 3 1/1 red goblins onto the board. More or less they're just a sack outlet to, net us a 1/1 goblin. Alright, next up we'll take a look at our sorceries and instants. First we have Blasphemous Act. Everybody knows what that does. Empty the Warrens, 4-cost red sorcery, put 2 1/1 red gobos onto the board, and it has Storm, so you copy this for each other spell that was cast before it. Goblin Grenade, 1-cost red sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, sack a goblin, and it deals 5 damage to target creature or player. Incendiary Command is a 5-cost sorcery, where we get to choose 2 of the following modes. It deals 4 damage to target player, or it deals 2 damage to each creature, or destroy target non-basic land, or each player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards. It gives us a lot of options. Mainly why we like it is that it will, we can use it to potentially wipe tokens off the board if we're getting overrun ourselves, maybe by another token deck, or to draw cards if if we have some dead cards in our hand and we just need to refresh our hand, we can use it for that as well. Meteor Blast, a 3-cost red sorcery with X, and it deals 4 damage to each of X target creatures and or players. Mizium Mortars, 2-cost sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, and if you overload it for 3 and 3 red, You replace the word target with each, so if you overload this, it deals 4 damage to each creature you don't control. Reforge the Souls, another way for us to refill our hand. 5 cost red sorcery, each player discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. And if we cast it for its miracle cost, so if it's the first card that we drew on our turn, we can cast it for 1 and a red. And Wild Guess is additional cost to cast it, discard a card, and draw 2 cards. Just another way for us to draw some cards. Next are the instants. We have Comet Storm, 2 cost red instant with X and multi-kicker for 1. And choose target creature or player, then choose another target creature or player for each time it was kicked, and it deals X damage to each of them. Scour from Existence, just there for us again to get rid of permanents that we can't normally deal with in mono red. Shattering Pulse lets us destroy target artifact with buyback for 3. Smash lets us destroy target artifact and draw a card, so kind of 2 nice things in one little package. And Starstorm lets us deal X damage to each creature, and we can cycle it for 3 and draw our card if we need to draw our card. And lastly, we're going to take a look at the creatures. We run an Arms Dealer because he lets us pay 2 and sack a Goblin to deal 4 damage to target creature, so some creature removal there. Beetleback Chief brings us 2 1/1 red Goblins when he comes in. Bloodmark Mentor gives our entire team haste because all of our creatures are red. Ember Hauler, 2 cost 2/2, where you can pay 1 and sack him to deal 2 damage to our creature or player. Gem Palm Incinerator is a 3 cost 2/1. We can cycle him for 1 and a red and discard him and draw our card. Also, when we cycle him, we may have it deal X damage to target creature, where X is the number of goblins in play. Goblin Chirurgeon lets us sack a goblin to regenerate target creature. Goblin Diplomats, a 2 cost 2/1, where we can tap it. Each creature attacks this turn if able, so it's a nice little card, especially if you're playing multiplayer. Maybe one of your opponents is, kind of sitting back, not doing anything. You can tap this on their turn to force their creatures to attack. So you can use this to force somebody's hand and make things interesting. Plus, I love the art on this card where the one goblin's pointing at his butt and the other guy is going like with his face. I like the art on it. Goblin King, 3 cost 2/2, gives all your other goblins +1/+1 a Mountain Walk. Goblin Marshal is a 6 cost 3/3 with Echo. When he comes in or dies, put 2 1/1 red goblins onto the board. Goblin Matron lets us tutor up a goblin and put it into our hand and shuffle. Goblin Pile Driver has protection from blue, and when he attacks, he gets +2/+0 till end of turn for each other attacking goblin, so he can get very, very powerful. Goblin Recruiter lets us search our library for any number of goblins, reveal them, and then put them on top of our library in the order that we want. Goblin Ringleader lets us look at our top 4. All the goblins go into our hand, and then the rest go on the bottom of our deck. Excuse me. Goblin Sharpshooter. He doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever a creature dies, you may untap him, and he taps to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Goblin War Chief lowers the casting cost of all our goblins by 1 and gives our goblins haste. Goblin War Driver, he has Battle Cry, so when he attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Intimidator Initiate, 1 cost 1/1. Whenever a player plays a red spell, you may pay 1 if you do target creature can't block this turn. Pretty cool card. If we have that 1 extra mana to invest into basically anything that we cast that's not colorless, we can make it so that something can't block. Jeering Instigator, a 2 cost 2/1 with Morph for 2 and a red, and when he's turned face up, we can Active Treason. Krenko Mob Boss just had to go into the deck, probably the most expensive card in the deck at about $4.30, but he had to go in. 4 cost 3/3. Tap him, put X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens onto the board, where X is the number of goblins you control, so he can get out of hand very quickly. Lightning Crafter is a 4-cost 3/3 where you champion a goblin or a shaman. So you basically sacrifice that goblin. And when this card leaves play, the card that you quote-unquote championed goes back onto the board. But the big thing about this guy is that he taps to deal 3 damage to target creature or player, so that's more or less why he's in there, is to get that lightning bolt effect. Next we have Mog War Marshal, 2-cost 1/1 with Echo for 1 and a red. When he comes in or dies, you put a 1/1 red goblin token onto the board. We're generally never going to pay this guy's Echo cost, but when he comes in, he brings a friend, and when he dies, he brings a friend. Outrage Shaman is a 5-cost 2/2 with Chroma, so when he comes into play, he deals damage to target creature equal to the number of red mana symbols and the mana cost of permanents you control. So he could potentially deal lots of damage to a creature and get it off the board for us. Reckless One is a 4-cost star goblin with haste, and his power and toughness are equal to the number of goblins in play. Siege Gang Commander is a 5-cost 2/2 that brings 3 1/1 red goblins with him. And we can pay 1 and a red and sacrifice a goblin, and he deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Then we have Skirk Drill Sergeant. When he or another goblin dies, you may pay 2 and a red. If you do, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a goblin, it goes onto the board. If it's not, it goes into your graveyard. More often than not, we do run 30 creatures, so there's some pretty good chance that if we do activate that, we're going to get a goblin onto the board for free. Skirk Fire Marshal is a 5-cost 2/2 with Prot Red, and you can tap 5 untapped goblins you control, and he deals 10 damage to each creature and each player. So if you just need to wipe the board, including your own stuff, because a lot of your goblins are, actually, I would say all of them are going to die to 10 damage. There's not many creatures that are going to survive 10 damage to the face, unless it's indestructible. But if you need to wipe the board, this guy will do it, and he'll survive because he's got Prot Red. Skirk Prospector, a 1-cost 1/1 where you can sack a goblin to add red to your mana pool. Spike Shot Elder, or you can pay 1 and 2 red, and he deals damage equal to his power to target creature or player. So he's pretty good if we have, stuff like our Goblin King or our Obelisk of Erd down on the board to make him bigger. Then we have Sting Scourger, 2-cost 2/2. When he comes in, we can bounce a creature to its owner's hand. And lastly, we have Tar Pitcher, a 4-cost 2/2 where you can tap him and sacrifice a goblin, and he deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So that about wraps up the deck, guys. So King Brackish, I hope you enjoyed this deck tech for Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker. Just a couple of other things to talk about. Not much to talk about here with the color balance because it's mono red. But as far as the types of cards, with any EDH deck, a third of your deck's going to be lands. So we run 38 lands in this deck. We run 5 instants, 8 sorceries, 7 enchantments, 11 artifacts, and 30 creatures. Our mana curve is very, very low. We have a couple things to play on turn 1, and then the most on turn 2, and then we curve down, very well from there. So there's really not many instances where you won't be able to play multiple spells a turn, past turn 4 or 5. And we do have, those things like Staff of Nin and Phyrexian Vault and Carnage Altar, Wild Guess, Incendiary Command, Reforge the Soul. So, if we are playing multiple spells every turn, there might be times where we're empty-handed and we're in top deck mode. Those cards are there to help us out with that, so we're not in top deck mode and we have options, and we're not just relying on whatever we're drawing for our turn to get us through the rest of the game if we stall out mid to late game. So that about wraps it up, guys. So again, hope everybody enjoyed this EDH deck tech for Kiki Jiki. Was a battling with a budget installment. So again, King Brackish, I hope this was kind of on the lines of what you were looking for. I mean, there are, can't speak, there are, other paths that you could go with the Kiki Jiki deck. I'm sure there's plenty of decks out there that run like infinite combos because Kiki Jiki is very infamous for being a combo piece in a lot of decks. We didn't really want to go with something like that. Although I believe we do have one infinite combo, which is Kiki Jiki and Lightning Crafter. I've been told that they can go infinite with each other. I really don't recall the exact way that they do, but I'm sure you could probably look it up or on a Magic Forums page and find out that interaction, because I just don't recall it off the top of my head. But there's other ways that you could go with a Kiki Jiki deck, but this is the way that I decided to go with it to make it budget. So again, hope you enjoyed it, and everybody else watching, I hope you did as well. So leave me some comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of this deck. If there are any alterations that you would make to it to kind of stay within budget of under $50. Let me know. I'd like to hear your comments and suggestions. Thumbs up the video if you did enjoy it, so that we know to keep making viewer request deck techs in the future. And if you're not already subscribed to Tap and Turn Gaming, please crush that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. So this has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming. Again, hope everybody enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot for watching.